My name is Noina Camila Betizazan, matrix number 268097, and to answer the question, I'll first explain what is international environmental law. International environmental law is a set of agreements and principles of the world's collective effort in resolving the vital environmental problems, which includes issues such as climate change, pollution of air and water, extinction of wildlife, and so forth. It consists of a variety of legislations, treaties, and conventions that are regulated to sustain the environment and its interconnected ecosystems. International environmental law is vital in protecting the plants and animals within the ecosystem as it ensures the sustainability of the environment.
One of the strong bases of international agreements that govern the issue of environment will be the Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement was created in 2015 and it has been signed by 119 states. Paris Agreement specifically addressed the issue of climate change that was caused by the economic as well as social activities of us human beings today. So the Paris Agreement is there to put a limit to such activities that eventually could preserve the planet's temperature well below 2 or preferably 1.5 degrees Celsius. The effect of climate change will not only be hazardous on us human beings, but also to the ecosystem as well as the planet diversity, making that Paris Agreement is really important for each state to come hand in hand to combat the root cause to the environment. Therefore, Paris Agreement can say one of the main general rules in protecting the environment at large.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Nurul Atira binti Bakri, matric number 270548. The act that related to protect the ecosystem by the tropical government, which is the Convention of Biological Diversity. The aim of this convention is to sustainable use of its part and the fair, equitable sharing of the benefit that come from genetic resources. This can be done in the following: fair access to genetic resources and fair transfer of relevant technologies. While for the term biological diversity, it refers to the differences between living things from all sources such as terrestrial, marine, and other aquatic ecosystem, and the ecological complex that are a part of it. And under Article 5, what is whole in Paris Agreement for the forest, Article 5.1 say that parties must take steps to protect and improve natural ecosystem like forests. There was a lot of discussion about whether the new agreement should specifically mention forests. There are mentioned that they have to protect the ecosystem to save the habitat natural and the complex of that. From the rules of Convention of Biological Diversity that have said before, the tropical government should apply and take legal action to ensure that the ecosystem remain preserved, especially forests. The law referred to the convention because the main objective to follow in accordance with its protection as the conservation of biological diversity and make sure the sustainable use of its aspect and fair sharing of the benefit arising from the use of biological resources, include and by appropriate transfer of relevant technology without harm the natural habitat of forests. On the other hand, in Article 5.1 whole, the Paris Agreement together they require parties to maintain and improve ecosystem like forests. The new pact should mention forests, according to many. So from that, tropical government passed a bill to safeguard wildlife and natural habitats. That's all from me. Thank you.
A rule that can be utilized by the tropical government to aid in the protection of the environment, specifically in maintaining the ecosystem that consists of swamps, are the Convention on Wetlands of International Importance, especially as waterfowl habitat. This convention is also known as the Ramsar Convention, which is derived from a city in Iran where the convention was adopted in 1971. It is an international treaty that came into force in 1975 for the conservation and sustainable use of wetlands. Article 1 of the Ramsar Convention provides a description of wetlands which encompasses 5 major wetland systems, which is the coastal wetlands, deltas, tidal marshes, mangrove swamps, wetlands associated with lakes, wetlands along rivers, swamps, and bogs. It is provided in the current case of the tropical government that the swamp is an important part of the ecosystem. The Ramsar Convention can aid the tropical government in protecting its wetland by establishing the nature reserve as a protection measure. One of the key commitments of the contracting parties is to identify and place suitable wetlands onto the list of wetlands of international importance, also known as the Ramsar List. This is one of the convention's mechanisms to help the contracting parties to maintain their wetlands' ecological character. It is provided that the contracting parties confirm that the Ramsar List is to develop and maintain an international network of wetlands which are important for the conservation of global biological diversity and for sustaining human life through the maintenance of the ecosystem components, processes, benefits, and services. The swamp in the tropical government can be protected by the Ramsar list if it meets the criteria for identifying wetlands of international importance. This can be observed from the Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary, which is one of the U.S. designated wetlands of international importance, where it is selected as it holds the role as the home of the largest remaining virgin bald cypress trees in the world. Thus, the tropical government could utilize the Ramsar Convention.
Next, in regards to the tropical government wishing to take measure protections of its coral reef ecosystem, they may refer to the United Nations Conventions on the Law of the Sea or UN clause. UN clause provide the most basic and general protections of the marine environment under Part 12 of its article. States have an obligation to protect and preserve the marine environment and are required to take all measures necessary to prevent, reduce, and control pollutions of the marine environment from any source that include pollution from land-based sources, seabed activities, or activities in the area by dumping from vessel and from or through the atmosphere. Moreover, the tropical government, prior to becoming a party, would have the power in decisions-making of rules, procedure, standard in the convention upon meeting, as state parties are the main decisions maker. This is to further enhance the collaboration between states to the betterment of protecting the coral reef ecosystems. And at the same time, any issue in regards to the interpretation and applications of the UN clause, the tropical government may have the power to take the issue before the ICJ, the tribunal, for arbitration as well as special arbitration. Tropical government may also refer to the other conventions applicable, such as the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, in case there's any trading of coral reef or for business purposes, and also the United Nations concerning the protections of the world cultural and natural heritage, as coral reef is one of the natural heritage to be protected.
My name is Nur Amira binti Rusli. My metric number is 273008. I'm going to explain on Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species 1973. It is an international agreement between governments with the aim to ensure that ban and regulate international trade in specimens of wild animals and plants under trades. CITES entered into force in 1975, and the CITES cigarette states that not one species protected by CITES has become extinct as a result of trade since the convention has entered into force. It grants different degree of protection to more than 36,000 species of animals and plants. The objective of this convention is to ensure that international trade of wild animals and plants is legal, sustainable, and traceable, that covers export, re-export, import, and landing from the high seas of life and dead animals and plants. So, CITES manage international trade by allocating species according to the level of trade in 3 appendices and requiring the party to take proper protection measures. In applying to the questions, wildlife and the forest crimes of endangered species is a growing threat globally. The tropical is an island and may be home to some of the most iconic and endangered species of flora and fauna. By recognizing CITES meets their commitment to protect wildlife and endangered species. By being a party to this convention, tropical island must agree to ban commercial international trade in a decided list of endangered species and to control trade in other species that might become endangered. The tropical island can set up and assign species according to its level of trade and take appropriate measures of success in protecting their wildlife, such as sanction and confiscations. The tropical island can have one or more management authorities to administer the licensing system and scientific authorities, so that this body can advise the government on the effect of trade and the status of these species. The tropical island, as the parties to this convention, need to maintain trade records annually to CITES so that the convention can have their statistic information on the international trades, and the island also may refuse at their discretion if they have ground to believe that they face with illegal export, or to refuse to accept apparently valid export permit. It is understandable that the tropical government is worried about the environment, as the planet also faces the same environmental challenges. The tropical island can export various international agreements and conventions as stated above in order to strengthen their implementation on environmental policies. It should be noted that when signing and ratifying the international rules, the tropical islands agreed several commitments in regard to the pursuit objectives. Once tropical island becomes a party to the agreement above, it has to commence implementation and enforcement efforts.